Hello, I'm Stephen McCormick, MSP Community Manager for Tubblog, the hub for MSPs. Earlier this year, I developed a small presentation for the team to explain in simple terms what an MSP or managed service provider is, so that the team can better understand our audience. Here's how that went. Today, we're going to talk about what a managed service provider is and the sorts of services they provide. I'm also going to talk a little bit about what a recurring revenue model is and why that's important for an MSP. And then there are a few things to remember about MSPs and how they operate. And then finally, a few observations for 2024. So what's the difference between managed services and IT service management then? Well, when I first joined Tubblog, I didn't really know what a managed service provider was, other than to take a wild guess. My background is in corporate IT, but managed services is a little bit different to that. When you think of a large-scale enterprise business, their central functions are broken down into departments that cater for things like human resources, accounting, facilities, and of course, IT. And they usually work out of a central office that serves regional satellite offices. However, if you're a small business, you don't often have the resources or the space or the people to be able to run all of those functions internally. For example, if you're a sole trader, you might outsource your end-of-year tax self-assessment to an accountant. A managed service provider is just an outsourced IT function that provides services to businesses that either do not have the desire or the resources in-house to be able to provide the IT services themselves. So what sorts of services does an MSP provide? Looking at the main functions, here we have them in orange. These are typical for any MSP. In fact, an MSP might only cover 2 or 3 of these main functions, or sometimes even just one, because they may be more specialized in a particular area, let's say cyber security. And since the pandemic, businesses have been fast tracking their digital transformation and adoption of the cloud. They may have gone from being on-site premises networks to using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspaces. And remember that MSPs may serve many businesses and tailor their services individually to meet a client's needs. So they'll provide network monitoring, cloud suite services, cybersecurity, which can be anything from MDR, EDR, SIEM. There are a lot of acronyms in cyber, and it could take a while if we were trying to go through them all. You've got firewall, endpoint detection, the list goes on. They can also provide tools and technology specific to industries that require things like CCTV networks, smart devices, voice over IP telephony, backup and business continuity, disaster recovery. Some MSPs are branching out into professional services as well. These can be end-user training, analytics and compliance, and what we call bespoke web services, which can integrate functions between software and devices over the internet using APIs. Now, the recurring revenue model is something that defines a managed service over a traditional break-fix transactional service, and it's a relatively new concept for some. In the early 2000s, if you provided an IT service, your client would give you a call whenever they needed something fixed or something seen to, and you'd turn up and you'd provide that service. Then you'd invoice them on an ad hoc basis and total up at the end of the month your time, any cost of parts, and your expertise as well. However, this isn't sustainable for an IT business in the long term. It limits your cash flow, you can't effectively manage your resources, and it means that you're reliant on having a steady stream of things to fix all the time. To be a truly effective MSP, you need clients who will pay for your services upfront and on a per user, per device basis. This is to provide some flexibility in your service agreements. In cloud services, they can often refer to per license agreements or tenants or seats. They also charge for data units too sometimes, and any ad hoc project work can be billed for at the end of the month as well. So if we look at this graph, you can see that the managed service provider market worldwide has nearly doubled in size from 2017 to 2023, and this trend looks set to continue. It shows that there's a pressing need for more outsourced IT services, especially with cybersecurity becoming more prominent. When we think of how much businesses have changed since the COVID pandemic, it's easy to see why managed services has become so popular across the globe. Let's now take a look at what a typical supply chain looks like for an MSP. So as an MSP, you bridge the gap between software vendors and your end user clients. You might have a dozen different product vendors in your offering, and you might have just as many clients who need some or all of those products provided by those vendors. Part of the value that you add as an MSP is in configuring those products to meet the end user requirements and help them select what they need. Now, as well as your own team, as an MSP, you might outsource some of the services your end users might need to another service provider. MSPs should focus on the core services that they want to provide and outsource everything else. Another option is in forming a strategic partnership with another MSP. This can be a good option if you run an MSP, let's say based in London. You have two clients that are based in Edinburgh, but you happen to know that Lucy runs an MSP based in Leith, so you form a strategic partnership with her to deliver on-site services on your behalf. So here are 6 things to think about when dealing with MSPs. Number 1, while some MSPs remain local, others operate across many time zones. A good example was someone I interviewed last year, one of the SuperOps Award winners. His MSP was based in Saskatchewan in Canada, and despite being a nimble MSP, that's one that's run by just one person or with a very small team, he was serving clients in both North America and Europe. Number 2, while some MSPs diversify their clientele from many different industries, others stick to a specific niche. There are 2 MSPs that I used to see regularly at one of the Tech Tribe local gatherings. Both of them support educational businesses and institutions. They chose to niche towards educational businesses because they can become specialist technology providers in that industry, choosing products that those businesses will make good use of. For example, schools and colleges need to limit access to the internet to protect students, so software that does that will be one of their core products that they sell. Number 3, MSPs range from nimble operations run by 1 or 2 people to small enterprises of 250 plus staff. So regardless of how many people they're serving in total across their client sites, an MSP can be a large operation or a small one. It largely depends on what services you're selling and how much you outsource to other companies. If you're mainly selling cloud licenses through a marketplace or similar, a lot of the security will be baked in with little configuration needed. However, if you provide more on-premises engineering with a lot of installs or cabling, it can be quite labor intensive, so you'll need more staff. Number 4, many MSP owners are looking forward to the day that they can sell up their MSP businesses. We know one example of a former MSP owner who sold his business. Of course, it was Richard Tubb. Running an MSP business is hard work, and so many grow their business to a point where it becomes attractive for another company to buy them out. For many business owners, it's what success looks like for them as an MSP, and some want to sell their business so that they can just start a new one. Not all MSPs see this as their end game, though, as some just want to run their business until they can retire. But even then, they want to make sure that their customers are taken good care of when they make that transition to retirement. It's a subject that still gets talked about regularly at local peer groups that I attend. Number 5, MSPs should not be afraid to outsource parts of their business that fall outside of their core services and specialties. Now, we have talked about this already, but the key thing to remember here is that it's impossible to try and do everything yourself to the high standards that you'll set yourself as a managed service provider business owner. You don't need to give yourself that extra headache. Focus on the things that you want to do and that you're good at. We call those your core competencies. Anything too complex for you or that you don't enjoy are ideal for you to outsource, or form a strategic partnership with another MSP to deliver those things that you don't like or that you can't do so well on your behalf. Number 6, most MSPs get into managed services because they love technology and they love helping people. Many MSPs become MSPs because they've worked for a larger IT enterprise before. They have a passion for technology, of course, but they also have a passion for helping people. They usually start an MSP because they see an opportunity to deliver technology to people in a better way. Usually big IT service providers suffer from inconsistent service levels, and they're not agile enough to adapt quickly to new trends, which can be frustrating for people with a problem-solving mindset. Though running your own business is not an easy task, it can be very rewarding helping others with their business success. Looking ahead at managed services in 2024, here are some of the challenges and opportunities affecting the market. Firstly, integrated AI solutions. Everyone is talking about how AI is changing the landscape for businesses since the rise of generative AI and large language models offering a greater competitive edge. Products like Microsoft Copilot are going to revolutionize productivity and collaboration, and it's only going to get better at it in the future. Cybersecurity is also a much talk about area for MSPs. AI has helped cyber criminals increase their scale and sophistication, and so solution providers are competing to become more robust. No business is safe from these threats either, and so having an innovative layered approach to cybersecurity seems to be the best way forward. Compliance is another big area. Regulation is coming in thick and fast. The UK's Product Security and Telecommunications Infrastructure PSTI Act came into force this year, and the EU's NIS2 directive comes into effect in October 2024. Alongside these, you have GDPR, and the industry is facing increased pressure for businesses to adopt cyber essentials frameworks. Underwriters of cyber insurance policies may require a certification such as this in order to validate policies in years to come, so it's best to be prepared now. Lastly, there's still a massive talent shortage in the industry. Tech skills in STEM industries are lacking, which makes recruitment a challenge for IT businesses. The demand is outpacing the normal growth, so we need to look at recruiting outside the usual pool, because tech giants like Microsoft and Apple will be swiping up anyone with good cybersecurity expertise or AI coding skills. We finished the session with a quick Q&A. The first question asked was, how does the end user know what's been done for them behind the scenes, and how do you demonstrate the value you provide as an MSP? Well, you have to report these things to them at regular technical review meetings. Depending on who you have in these meetings, you need to be able to demonstrate your value to whomever's in the room, whether that's a raising of their security posture with the number of threats that you've stopped hitting their network, or how many tickets you've closed before they've been escalated up. You've also got to show when you've been proactive too, making sure patching is done in a timely manner, ensuring licenses are all up to date, and that any end-of-life tech has been replaced with a minimum disruption to service. They're likely just going to want to know how you've helped them to manage their risk effectively, and how you've increased the productivity of their business, helping them to, of course, make more money. This next question we had was a bit of an odd one, but do MSPs get offended when you call them an IT business? Well, managed service provider is a relatively new term for the industry in the UK. It's a term that's been around for a long time in the United States, and we're still kind of catching on to it here. So to put that into perspective, there are some attendees at some of the peer groups that I go to that still insist that they do not even recognize themselves as a managed service provider. And to anyone outside of the industry, managed service provider means very little to them. So the answer is no. MSPs don't mind being called an outsourced IT service provider or something similar if it means more to their potential customers to be known by a different name. Indeed, some people are even trying to push for an even an even better descriptor even now. So I recently read Carl Palachuk's newsletter where he mentioned that he was trying to coin a new phrase. So maybe we won't be called managed service providers in the future. Who knows? Watch this space. I've been Stephen McCormick, and that's been a production for Tubblog, the hub for MSPs. Catch you later.